What would you do if the one thing you trusted more than anything in the world, the one constant in your life, suddenly lied to you? For 5 years, my wife Jessica's location on the Find My app was a fixed point in my universe. Always accurate, always honest, until tonight. The screen of my iPhone glowed in the dark bedroom at 2 a.m., a tiny beacon of dread. It said she was at her sister's house in Evanston. But her sister had called me an hour ago, worried, asking if Jessica was with me. The app was wrong for the very first time, and in that single, chilling discrepancy, I felt the entire foundation of my marriage crack. I knew, with a certainty that settled like ice in my gut, that this was more than just a glitch. This was a deliberate deception. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The lie was the beginning. The next few weeks were a masterclass in gaslighting. "You're being paranoid, James," she'd say, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. "Why would you even think that?" She'd touch my arm, her fingers cold, her eyes holding a look of pity that made my skin crawl. I started noticing the little things. The way she angled her phone away from me, hushed clipped phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room. A credit card receipt from a restaurant I'd never heard of, the signature room at the 95th. A place for quiet, expensive dates. When I asked, she waved it off. "An old charge, honey. You know how those things can be delayed," but the date was from last Tuesday. The night she was supposedly working late on the big merger at her law firm on Wacker Drive. She grew colder, more distant. The woman I married, the one who'd laugh at my stupid jokes and hold my hand during movies, was replaced by a polished, manipulative stranger. She and her lover, I didn't know his name yet, but I could feel his presence in our home. A ghost smelling of expensive cologne were untouchable. They were smarter, better, spurred. I was just the boring, predictable husband she had outgrown. The humiliation was a physical weight. I'd sit in our beautiful Lincoln Park brownstone. The one I'd worked 2 jobs to afford and feel like a guest in my own life. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. I found a hotel keycard in the pocket of her Burberry trench coat. The Peninsula, Chicago's finest, sank to the floor of our walk-in closet. The keycard clutched in my hand, and for the first time in my adult life, I wept. A raw, guttural sob that tore from my soul. The love of my life was a liar, and I was a fool. But as the tears dried, something else took their place. A cold, hard resolve. The grief curdled into rage. The broken man got up off the floor. Strategic, ruthless one stood in his place. My war had begun. I hired a private investigator, Kate, a grizzled ex-cop named Sal, who operated out of a dusty office in the Loop. "Find everything," I told him, sliding the Peninsula keycard across his desk, and he did. His name was Mark, a smug financial analyst from her rival firm. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months. Sal's file was meticulous. Photos of them kissing in the parking garage at O'Hare before her business trips. Copies of hotel folios, even screenshots of their sickeningly sweet text messages he'd managed to recover. I read every word, letting the poison fuel me. The trap was set. Jessica's parents were celebrating their 40th anniversary with a huge party at the Chicago Yacht Club. Her entire family, her colleagues, her friends, everyone who mattered in her carefully curated world would be there. It was also the day our divorce would be finalized, a fact I'd kept from her. My lawyer, a shark in a Savile Row suit, had filed everything on the grounds of infidelity using Sal's mountain of evidence. We structured the settlement to be brutal. Thanks to a prenup, Dee arrogantly insisted on believing Dee always be the higher earner. Her adultery triggered a clause that left her with almost nothing. On the day of the party, just as her father was beginning his toast, a courier walked in. He handed Jessica a large manila envelope. Confused, she opened it. Inside were the final divorce papers and a single, glossy 8x10 photograph of her and Mark, mouths locked in a hotel elevator. I watched from across the room as the color drained from her face. Her father's voice faltered as he saw her expression. A low murmur rippled through the crowd, her perfect world, so meticulously built, shattered in a single, silent moment. She was ruined, socially, financially, and legally. I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I walked out of the yacht club and into the cool night air, the sounds of the party fading behind me. I walked along the lakefront, the dark water of Lake Michigan, stretching out into infinity. There was no triumph, no satisfaction. It's just a vast, hollow emptiness where my love for her used to be. The city lights of the Chicago skyline glittered, but for the first time they offered no comfort. I had one, but I had lost everything that ever mattered. The wind off the lake was cold, and I realized I was utterly and completely alone.